I am live. Hit the sub button, hit the like button, hit the alerts, all that good stuff. You catching it in the archives? Comment below. Hit the like button. All that good stuff, man. It is Friday night, 4th of July weekend. Got my beverage here, Blue Moon. You saw me stand. Let me not do that. Let me not do that. What's up, Run PMC in the comment section? Hit the like button. Please do that for me. And also comment in this section as you pop in, man. Introduce yourself. Friday night, let's party. Let's talk some boxing. 4th of July weekend. Blue Moon. You got Modelo, you got Heineken, whatever you got, man. Pop it open. Let's talk some boxing. We got a fight this weekend, too. Chris Colbert versus King Tug. Should be a good fight. And we're halfway through the year. So we're going to have a half-year award show here. Half-year award show. We're going to be talking about knockout of the year, victory of the year, fight of the year, fighter of the year, clowns of the year, our clowns of the year. We got a lot of clowns in boxing. We'll be talking about that as well. Shout out to everybody who serves or served. Happy 4th of July. Thanks to everybody out there sacrificing. Salute to you. Let me not let this hit the ground because my dad, who's a Marine, will say, don't let that flag hit the ground. Shout out to the Marines right there. Marines, the few, the proud. Shout out to everybody out there, man. Let's talk some boxing. Before we get to the half-year award show, one thing I saw that really got me excited, was yesterday there was an announcement that Regis Prograis and Mikey Garcia are in advanced talks for later in the year. Boy, do I love that fight. 140. Both guys can make 140, hopefully, still make 140. And both guys are a problem at 140. Mikey Garcia's never lost at 140. Regis Prograis arguably never lost at 140. His only loss is to the undisputed guy at 140. The real champion at 140. We got Mikey Garcia 40-1, 30 KOs. Regis Prograis 26-1, 22 KOs. The beautiful thing about that is both of their losses came to pound for pound type guys. Shout out Chicano Prophet in the building. Saludos. Cheers to you, man. Cheers to Run PMC. Cheers to everybody out there watching. Happy 4th of July weekend. Let's get it popping. 3-day weekend. Love it. But I love this fight, man. A lot to talk about with this fight. And we'll be talking about it as the months go on if they finalize it, which it sounds like they are. It sounds like they're close in advanced talks. Mikey Garcia's only loss is to Errol Spence at 147. Regis Prograis' only loss is a disputed loss to Josh Taylor, who is undisputed at 140. So you can argue Regis Prograis is number 2 at 140. You can argue Mikey Garcia, if you're ranking him at 140, hasn't fought since February of last year. If you're ranking him at 140, you could argue he is a top 5 guy at 140. The guy was running through people at 126, 130, 135, moved up to 140, moved up to 147, which seemed to be out of his elements a little bit. A Shark Tank for him, a little too much, a little too high for him. Moved down to 135 to fight Robert Easter, but then moved up to 147. And hey, no shame in losing to Errol Spence. You fought him. A lot of guys wouldn't fight him. You fought him at 147, gave your best effort, lost. No shame in taking that out. So Mikey Garcia versus Regis Prograis, dude, that's a fight. And like I said, Prograis' only losses to Josh Taylor. He last fought in April against Regis. The only thing for Mikey Garcia is you worry about the ring rust. So shout out to Mikey Garcia for not using that as an excuse for a tune-up fight and say, you know what? Let's do this, man. Let's just go straight into it. Let's move down to 140 and let's fight arguably the toughest fight at 140. Prograis tough, man. Tough. Both those guys are busting at the seams at 140. We'll see if Garcia can make the weight comfortably. We'll see if Prograis can make the weight comfortably. He's been talking about moving up to 147 himself. So, but that is a fight. That's a banger. That is a banger at 140. Woo! 140 is tough, man. You got some dogs at the top. You got some sharks. Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez, Regis Prograis. Now Mikey Garcia is throwing his name in the mix. And you got guys that are going to be moving up from 35 to 40. Guys like Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney possibly. 140 is a shark tank. It's a shark tank. And I was thinking about this earlier. Like these guys who are eventually going to move up from 140 to 147, welterweight, which should be a sexy division. These top guys at welterweight have been ducking each other for a couple of years now. Talented division with guys who don't want to mix it up. But now you might have guys like Josh Taylor moving up to 147. Prograis can move up to 147 eventually. And you add to the mix Virgil Ortiz, Boots Ennis making their way up through the ranks. Let's say Terrence Crawford stays there. You know, you got a shark tank at 147 and hopefully guys who want to mix it up, who are cut from a different cloth than the current guys who are talented at 147. These guys at 147 haven't been fighting each other. Hopefully guys like Virgil Ortiz, Boots Ennis, Josh Taylor, Regis Prograis start to mix that up. And I'm happy for Regis Prograis that it looks like he's finally going to get that fight that's been evading him at 140. Guys haven't been wanting to get in there with them. Mikey Garcia, props to Mikey Garcia. 1.5 year layoff saying, I want to get right back into it. Fight one of the top guys at 140. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Love it. Love it. Let's get into the half-year award show. Hit the like button as y'all come in. Fighter of the year, fight of the year, knockout of the year. As I go through these, leave your comment in the comment section below or in the chat if you're in the chat. Right now, if you're catching this in the archives, I want to know what everybody's fight of the year, fighter of the year, etc., is. Let's start with the fight of the half year, and we're talking half year, not full year, obviously, because it's only July. Half year: Valdez versus Burchelt, Tank versus Barrios. I'm gonna throw him in the mix as well. That was a good fight. Tank versus Barrios was a good fight. I don't think it was a great fight. So I think it's going to fall short on my list anyway, but it's at least on the list. It's on a handful of fights that I would throw in. Estrada versus Chocolatito. In the Brandon Glanton fight that just happened. Those are 4 fights that I throw in the mix. Ramirez versus Taylor is in there. That's in there. It's tough. It's tough with this because I thoroughly enjoyed Ramirez versus Taylor, but I throw that more into the performance of the year. And I tweeted it at the time. I said something like it started off as a fight of the year type fight, but it ended as a performance of the year type fight with Josh Taylor. You saw Josh Taylor start to separate himself from Jose Ramirez as the fight went on, right? It started off, these guys were going back and forth. Close fight through half the fight, and then Josh Taylor started to separate himself from Jose Ramirez that night. And that's why I see it more of as a performance of the year type fight instead of a fight of the year. But, man, it's on the short list. It's on the short list for sure. These are 2 good ones, yeah. Glanton of the Quadras fight. Those are other good fights to throw in. That Glanton fight was a beast. Valdez versus Burchelt. Another one started off as a fight of the year type fight, and then it ended as a performance of the year type thing. It was exciting. These are all exciting fights we're talking about. But to me, a fight of the year has to be 2 guys who are, one guy starts to take over the fight, then the momentum shifts, then the momentum shifts back. It's sort of an even fight and exciting at the same time and great. For me, that's Estrada versus Chocolatito. No matter how you had the fight scored, I had Chocolatito winning the fight. Still to this day, I've watched the fight 4 or 5 times. I had Chocolatito winning the fight every time. That being said, if you had Estrada winning the fight, I saw some rounds there that you could give Estrada that I gave to Chocolatito and say, okay, I could see how you edged out Estrada. I get it. But that was the fight of the year for me, being that even match fight. Estrada was the favorite coming in because the narrative going in was Chocolatito was well past his prime. Didn't end up being that way when they got in the ring because Chocolatito still looked sharp. He still looked very sharp. And the momentum shift a bunch of times in that fight. One guy would take over, the other guy would take over, and neither guy was able to fully establish the momentum in the fight. Neither guy was able to fully take over the fight. And that's what I look for in a fight of the year. It's just the ebb and flow of it. And not only that, with these guys, with this fight in particular, you're talking about two elite fighters. Not only that, you're talking about two legends in the sport. Chocolatito, we already knew was a legend, but Estrada really stamps himself as a legend, being that the first fight with Chocolatito was closer than the scorecards. He hung with Chocolatito in the first fight, and then in this fight, arguably beat him. He won on the official scorecards. Like I said, I had Chocolatito winning the fight, but he won on the official scorecard. So Estrada really established himself as a legend in this fight. And that's another thing you look for in a great, great fight is you get questions answered. And we got questions answered in that fight, and that Estrada is a guy who we can now say is a legend in the sport. He's a legend. He just is. As much as I love Chocolatito, I have to give my props to Estrada. He's a legend. And that was a fight between two legendary fighters. Chocolatito really trying to make his last stand against a guy who is seen as still somewhat in his prime in Estrada, younger, fresher, another legend in his own right. And the technique was off the charts, but you had two guys who they're not in there to clinch. They're not in there to yuck it up. Those guys were in there to fight. Technically sound, keeping their hands free, fighting on the inside, fighting on the outside, using lateral movement, great athletic ability. They had it all. That fight had it all. Chocolatito versus Estrada, or Estrada versus Chocolatito, however you want to say it, was the fight of the half year for me, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to up that one in the second half of the year. We got some great fights coming up. So there are going to be opportunities, but it's going to be tough to top that one. So cheers to the fight of the half year so far, first half of 2021. Chocolatito versus Estrada. Great fight. Victory of the half year. Let's go with victory of the half year. Our performance of the half year. We can go with that as well. Josh Taylor over Jose Ramirez is on that list. We just spoke on that one. Estrada over Chocolatito, if you had Estrada winning the fight. That's another one. Performance of the year, victory of the year. Nonito over Ubali. Woo! That's one to throw in there as well. 38 and a half years old in the lower weight classes. Dude, you're like, that's like being 50 in upper weight classes and winning fights. Guys in the lower weight classes are throwing 80, 90 punches per round. You're 38 and a half years old trying to neutralize that. All right. So Nonito, you got to throw him in there. Jamal Herring over Frampton. And Joshua J has Josh Taylor number one. Can't argue with that. Valdez over Burchelt. Now we're talking about the victory of the year. Now, I guess we have to separate victory and performance of the year. Because for me, performance of the year, I got to go with Valdez over Burchelt, being that Valdez was a heavy underdog coming into the fight. And the way he did it, knocking out Burchelt, a guy who people were acting like he was the Terminator coming in, and rightfully so. Burchelt was mowing guys down coming into this fight. He was the heavy favorite against Valdez. People forget this. He was the heavy favorite against Valdez. 9 out of 10 people were picking Burchelt to run through Valdez in this fight. Valdez comes in there, starts outboxing Burchelt after a couple rounds, and just starts mowing him down himself, and then off the back foot lands that shot. That's performance of the year for me so far. And more on this fight later because we got another award this is going to win. But I think the victory of the year so far, though, is what Joshua J says is Josh Taylor. Being that it's the most meaningful win so far. It's for all the belts. It's a true championship. Like, all 5 of the belts being on the line, that's the closest we get to a Super Bowl in boxing, right? You got the 4 main belts, and then you got the ring belt, which awards the lineal champion. So what Josh Taylor did that night is he said, I'm the king in my division. You can't dispute it. I'm undisputed. I am the king. Although they're trying to dispute it and saying Tank Davis is a champion at 140. Don't get me started. But look, dude, that's the most meaningful fight of the half year so far. It's going to be tough to top because it's meaningful. Canelo, if he fights Caleb Plant, if they can make that fight happen, and he does it at 168, Charlo has a shot, 154. Charlo has a shot coming up. So you have other guys who are going to be able to try to pull this off, but it's a tough thing to do because not only do you have to navigate the politics and the business of boxing to get these fights made, but you have to actually beat these guys. You have to beat Prograis. You have to beat Postal. And then you have to beat Jose Ramirez, who is tough as nails, and beat him in that fight. Man, Jose Ramirez is a tough fighter, and he's a guy who's going to bounce back. Love Jose Ramirez, a guy who's going to bounce back. And he was in that fight early. He had his moments early, but as the fight went on, Josh Taylor started to separate himself, as I said earlier, and had the victory of the year. This is the most meaningful win of the year so far, hands down. But you have other ones. I mean, Nonito over Obali, doing that at his age, winning a title, and trying to become undisputed in his own right, although the Casemiro fight falling apart. Don't get me started on that either. Herring winning against Frampton, winning a belt there, a championship there. Estrada over Chocolatito. If you have Estrada winning that fight, the reason I don't throw Estrada in the victor of the year thing is it's my channel and I just didn't have him winning the fight. Shout out to Estrada. Shout out to his fans. No disrespect. I just had Chocolatito winning the fight. But he's going to have another crack at it in October. Going to have another crack at it in October. And those two legends are going to go at it again. And Valdez over Burchelt, like I said, that was just a thing of beauty. But Josh Taylor has the most meaningful win of the year, as Joshua J said earlier. So Josh Taylor, number one. He has the victory of the half year so far. Yeah, Tank Davis. Shout out to Run BMC in the chat. And y'all leave comments in the chat. And if you're watching this in the archive, leave comments below. Leave comments below and hit that like button as y'all come in. KO of the year. This was an easy one for me. And leave y'all's comments on the KO of the year as well. You had either Rosado over Beck the Bully. The Rosado over Beck the Bully knockout was shocking to me. I thought Beck the Bully was going to win coming in. Rosado is a guy, he's a perfect gatekeeper opponent. Shout out to D-Style. We're doing a half-year award show, bro. So leave your comments in there and share the video. Hit the like button, all that good stuff. Beck the Bully. He was seen as a guy, they were being aggressive with him. I always say on this channel, you can tell a lot about a fighter by how his handlers handle him. So the fact that they were so aggressive with Beck the Bully moving up this early in his career, they wanted to fight Kovalev in January. That fight fell through because of Kovalev. And then they bounced right back with a gatekeeper opponent and Gabe Rosado, who is a perfect gatekeeper opponent because he does everything well, nothing great. If you don't bring your A game, he's going to test you, but he doesn't have punching power. He doesn't have elite punching power, especially at that weight that they were fighting at. So it was shocking that he knocks out Beck the Bully the way he did, especially. Beck the Bully was winning the fight, hands down up to that point, but Gabe Rosado was timing. He was low. He was waiting for that shot for Beck the Bully to open up and come in, caught him with the short right, lights out. And that was a great KO by Gabe Rosado. He's in the mix, but we all know what the KO of the year is. We all know. Valdez over Burchelt. That was a thing of beauty. That was one of those ones. My wife was laying next to me in the bed. I'm watching the fight, laying down, and I literally jumped up and started yelling. Like, oh! I started yelling, and she's like, what happened? What is going on? And she saw the replay and saw what was going on. But the fact that Burchelt was a heavy favorite coming in, Valdez was a heavy dog. 9 out of 10 people were picking. I mean, the Vegas odds had Valdez is like a 3.5 to 1 underdog coming into this fight. People weren't giving him much of a shot against Burchelt, who was the Terminator, who was invincible at 130 and was going to run straight through Valdez. And guess what happened? The opposite happened. And I love seeing surprises like that in boxing. The surprises are beautiful. It's the shocking moments that make this sport worth coming back to and coming back to. Those shocking moments. And that's what happened in that fight. Nobody saw. Everybody was like, the people who were, yes, it was a great KO. The people who were picking Valdez to win that fight were picking Valdez to win on the scorecards. The few people who were picking that. Nobody was picking Valdez to win like that. Especially off of his back foot. Burchelt coming in. The beautiful thing about that performance too was Valdez didn't let up. He was starting to rack up rounds. He could have went on his bike, Shakur Stevenson style, but he didn't. He was loading up on shots, loading up on counters, loading up on body shots, loading up. He was leading. And then Burchelt ran straight into that shot. Planked him. Beautiful. Beautiful knockout. One of the best knockouts I've seen in quite some time. Yeah, I mean, shout out G Funky. G Funky was all over that pick for Valdez, but not too many people were picking that. People were picking Valdez, Burchelt like crazy, and that's the knockout of the year. The clown of the year in boxing. We got many. Leonard Ellerby for saying Josh Taylor doesn't deserve or not deserve, but what does he bring to the table for Tank Davis right now? What did Matteo Barrios bring to the table? Only like 70 people that were at the fight, the Tank Davis fight, know Josh Taylor's names. How many knew Mario Barrios' name before? How many people? Like 20? He still got the fight. What did Matteo Barrios bring to the table? He brought to the table a trinket. Josh Taylor brings 5 belts, the 4 main belts and the ring belt. That's what he brings to the table. So, clown of the year could be Leonard Ellerby. Clown of the year could be half year. Clown of the half year, that's right. Oscar De La Hoya, that's right. And I was going to throw this one out there too. Shout out Joshua J in the chat. Malik Scott comparing Wilder to Ali. That was on my list as well. Saying that Wilder is 10 times more talented, skilled than Muhammad Ali and went through 10 times more outside of the ring. Clown. I mean, we got ourselves a strong list here going through this half of the year so far. We got ourselves a strong list of clowns. Leonard Ellerby, Malik Scott, Oscar De La Hoya with the constant trolling of Canelo Alvarez. If you're Canelo, man, just right. Saying Canelo is just another Ricardo Mayorga. If you are Canelo Alvarez, ignore him. You know, it's like that song, I don't want no scrubs. If you're Canelo, just treat him like a scrub. Sitting in the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. Just treat Oscar like that. If you're Canelo, stay focused on the mission. Stay focused on becoming undisputed. Stay focused on becoming a star. Stay focused on becoming the new Oscar De La Hoya and starting your own promotional company, but don't mess it up. You know, just keep people around you who you trust, who can run the business. But Oscar's a clown right now. And I hate to say that because I was an Oscar fan, but Oscar's a clown right now. He's definitely in there. So Malik Scott, Leonard Ellerby, Oscar De La Hoya, Casimiro's manager for the comments toward Rachel Donaire. Although I would argue they still should have went through with the fight. But dude, don't tell a man's wife to S a D. Don't say S my D to a man's wife. You just don't. Whether she's the manager or not, just don't say it. Don't be a clown. Don't mess up fights, man. It's tough enough to make fights already. We already got to go through drug testing and business politics. Who's with what network? Who's with what promoter? We don't have to deal with managers telling a fighter's wife to S a D. S my D. Come on, man. You're in the clown list too. Deontay Wilder's in the clown list as well with the constant gloves aren't supposed to do this. They're not supposed to do that. I was spiked with whatever by my own trainer for whatever reason. Even though I didn't fail a drug test after the fight. Fight hype. Let's throw fight hype on the clown of the year list as well. Fight hype taking down Chris Colbert's video. Fight hype taking down Chris Colbert's video and censoring Chris Colbert's comments about Deontay Wilder because I'm sure they got a phone call from Wilder or Wilder's team saying, you better take that down or you're going to lose credentials. You're going to lose access to my fighter. So throw fight hype on there. We used to call fight hype Floyd hype. There was you can never say anything about. I remember people would leave comments on their articles below bad about Floyd, and then somebody would come behind and erase those comments from fight hype. Like there was you could not say anything bad about Floyd on fight hype. There were not even critical, nothing even slightly critical about Floyd on fight hype. We used to call it Floyd hype. Maybe now it's Deontay hype, Wilder hype. Let's see, Chavez Jr. Yes, Chavez Jr. clown. Doesn't it feel like Chavez Jr. could be the clown of the year for like 5 straight years? Chavez Jr. clown of the half year so far. I think we might have a winner. I forgot about that. I didn't even put him on my list. Boxing Dialogue may have given us the clown of the half year winner. Was it July 2nd? We still got some time to go. Half year, halfway through. But Chavez Jr. losing to Anderson Silva. And then not only that, it got worse. His dad disowned him. His dad said, dude, his dad just went in the press and said, just give it up. Like, just don't do it. Both of his sons, just don't do it anymore. You're not going to train, just stop. Just quit. Chavez Jr., he's definitely in the mix. The LDBC community, you throw them in the mix. They could be clown of the years for like 8 straight years too. LDBC, we throw them in the clowns of the year. The constant conspiracy theories. Gloves don't do that. You're not supposed to see the palm. Oh, it was egg weight. Oh, he was moving the padding out. Oh, he was drugged. He was drugged by his own trainer. White supremacy stopped him from winning the heavyweight championship. LDBC, we can throw them in there. But I think we have a winner, man. I think Boxing Dialogue gave it to us. Chavez Jr. losing to an MMA in a boxing match. Not only that, missing weight. They made the weight. They made a Chavez Jr. weight class, and he missed it. He missed his own weight class by like 2 pounds. And then he loses. He loses easy. And then his dad comes on after him and looks great. And then crowns Canelo and then disowns Chavez Jr. after the fight, saying this kid just needs to give it up. Chavez Jr., clown of the year. That's right. You got it, man. Chavez Jr. is the clown of the year. That's a good look, man, because I didn't even have him on my list. He's a clown of the half year. I keep saying year, half year. So let's go with the big one, fighter of the half year. I want to discuss this because half year and year, there's going to be a big difference. And the reason there's going to be a big difference is the guy who is arguably that fighter of the half year is going to be tough to beat because he's so active. In a year in boxing, in a time period in boxing, Canelo is now a Chavez. That's right. That's right. Speaking of, in a year that's so, in an era that is so inactive, fighters are so inactive. They fight once, maybe twice a year. You know, you got 154 Charlo, who's a special talent, has a meaningful fight coming up. But I think this is his only fight of the year so far, and it's probably be his only fight of the year. 160 Charlo only fought once this year. Even the top dogs, they only fight once a year. I think the Errol Spence Jr., this will be his only fight this year as well with Manny Pacquiao. You have an era where guys fight once, maybe twice a year. Canelo is looking to do it 4 times in a year, 5 times in 12 months. Remember, he fought in December Fought December, fought February, fought May, wants to fight again in September, and wants to fight again in December. And not only that, man, he's doing it meaningful fights. He's going for history. He's trying to clean out his division. I think he's going to try to become the only super middleweight, undisputed super middleweight champion of all time he's trying to become. Relatively young division compared to other divisions, but he's looking to do it. And so you got to throw, Canelo's going to be tough to beat. He's going to be tough to beat. So right now, Canelo fighting twice. He's the only fighter on this list that's fought twice so far. So you got to throw him in there for beating Billy Joe Saunders and beating his mandatory. Canelo's got to be on the list. Josh Taylor has to be on the list. He has the most meaningful victory of the year and a great performance as well. He looked great doing it. And he did it against another great fighter in Jose Ramirez in his prime. Undefeated fighter. Tough fight. He went through some tough rounds early in that fight, figured it out, cracked the code, and won the fight easy on the cards against a great fighter, against Jose Ramirez. So Josh Taylor's on that list. Nonito Donaire is on the list. Fighter of the half year, being that he beat Ubali, a true champion at the weight class. And he did it at 38 and a half years old. A lot of people just wrote him off after the Inoue fight, saying that he was done. I like this one right here. Jake Paul. I'll do you one better. Logan Paul. 50-1, beating Floyd Mayweather, right? So you could throw Jake Paul or Logan Paul in there. Estrada or Chocolatito. The reason I throw Chocolatito out there is because I had him winning the fight, but I know that's not going to fly. So if you had Estrada winning the fight, so far you could have him, Estrada, in the mix as fighter of the half year. And if Estrada beats Chocolatito officially in October in the rematch, and he has 2 wins against Chocolatito, who still looked fresh in the fight, still looked like he had a lot left in the tank, then we got Estrada in the mix for fighter of the year. So fighter of the half year, Estrada's in the mix. Inoue is in the mix. If Inoue wins another fight, he could be in the mix for fighter of the year. But right now, Des Marinas isn't going to do it for fighter of the half year. Jamal Herring beating Carl Frampton. You got to throw him in the mix. 154 Charlo, if he does beat Constano, would be in the mix for fighter of the year. But winning one fight in the year, I don't think is going to do it this year. And once again, he didn't fight in the first half of this year, so he can't be on this list. So right now, it's got to be Canelo or Josh Taylor, in my opinion. Canelo fighting twice is a flex move in a half a year in today's boxing age. But I just can't get past Josh Taylor beating Jose Ramirez for all the belts at 140. So I got to put Josh Taylor as fighter of the half year. Josh Taylor is my fighter of the half year. I just think that performance, that win, was the most meaningful win of the year so far. And Josh Taylor, and he catapulted himself onto the pound for pound rankings, top 6, top 7 in the pound for pound. So Josh Taylor right now is fighter of the half year. The issue going forward this year is Josh Taylor is going to be fighting his mandatory, who isn't a big name, in October or November. So that, to me, if Canelo goes 4-0, that's not going to be enough to hold off Canelo for fighter of the year looking forward. If Canelo goes ahead and beats Caleb Plant, cleans out the division, and then fights again in December and goes 4-0, Canelo is the fighter of the year. I just don't see how, in today's day and age where guys are fighting once or twice a year, I don't see how you can not give it to a guy who wins 4 meaningful fights and cleans out his division. I just don't see how you're going to be able to do that. Now, Canelo could possibly go 3-1. He could possibly lose a fight. Let's say Caleb Plant beats him. Then you got to throw Caleb Plant's name in the mix. But I just don't see that happening. And Canelo's going to be tough to beat, man, for fighter of the year once it's all said and done. When we're talking about this in December, early January, I think we're going to be saying that Canelo is the fighter of the year. Josh Taylor, like I said, defending over across the pond against a lesser named opponent. I don't think that's going to be enough to hold off Canelo for fighter of the year. Nonito, if he'd have went through with the Casemiro fight and won that, and then possibly fought Inoue in December or something and won all 3 of those fights, If you throw out that scenario, Nonito Donaire would have probably been fighter of the year, even over Canelo, and clean out the division at 118. But that's very unlikely that would have happened. And now it's not going to happen because the Casemiro fight's off. Inoue, let's say Inoue beats Desmarinis and then beats Donaire later on in the year, his name will be in the mix as well. 154, Charlo, if he wins 154 undisputed, his name will be in the mix. But winning one fight in a year just isn't going to do it. Even if he fights a mandatory later on in the year. Let's say he fights Erickson Lubin later on in the year. Although strong, it's not going to be enough to hold off a 4-0 Canelo Alvarez if that's to happen. So right now, Canelo Alvarez is number 2 for fighter of the half year behind Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor's fighter of the half year, 2021 so far for me. But looking forward, I think Canelo's going to get it for fighter of the year later on in the year. So just to recap this thing, man, it's been strong. We had the clown of the year, victory of the year. Fight of the half year was Estrada Chocolatito. Victory of the year, Josh Taylor. Performance of the year was Oscar Valdez. KO of the year, Valdez over Burchelt. Clown of the year, Chavez Jr. for losing to Anderson Silva, missing weight, getting disowned by his dad. And the fighter of the half year, Josh Taylor, just to recap. And we got a fight this weekend. Just to preview that fight real quick, I think Colbert's going to win this fight against King Tug. King Tug is a tough late replacement. Tough, man. 12-1. The guy's tough as nails. He has limitations. He's moving up in weight, but he's tough as nails. He's going to be there. He's going to be there. And if Chris Colbert doesn't come prepared, if Chris Colbert isn't ready for the style, if Chris Colbert runs into a shot early, this could turn in tough. This could turn into a tough fight, but I think Chris Colbert's ready. I think he's ready. It's a tougher fight than the Gamboa fight was going to be, though. At 39 years old, Gamboa was older. Even though King Tug is moving up in weight, this is a tough fight. Let me get to this comment by Run PMC. Mayweather can be clown of the year after that last performance. Yeah, Mayweather in the corner, then Mayweather talking eye to eye with Tank before the press conference so everybody can see. He's like looking out the corner of his eye. Is everybody watching me? Is everybody watching me giving this groundbreaking speech to Tank before he goes and talks? And then he's got to do that with everybody. I remember Mayweather after a fight giving a speech to Drake. And Drake is like in his locker room saying, yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's like, dude, he's 5 years older than you. Why are you saying yes, sir? But he's got to give these groundbreaking speeches to everybody eye to eye. It's like, come on, man. Yeah, you could throw Mayweather in there too. So glad it isn't Gamboa. Yeah, Gamboa, man, I got a lot of respect for Gamboa back in the day, but Gamboa has run its course. That's just where I'm at with Gamboa right now. He was a fun fighter back in the day, but he's run his course, and King Tug is a more meaningful fight. Even though Gamboa gives you a bigger name on your resume, King Tug is a tougher fight right now. And I know Colbert's saying, how's this guy going to move up in weight, et cetera, to beat me? Look, man, when lower weight classes, people say, oh, it's only 4 pounds. Man, it's the equivalent of moving up from 147 to 154. 4 pounds means a lot in the lower weight classes when you're talking about those weight classes. From 126 to 130 is a jump. You're talking about two guys who are somewhere between 7 and 10 in their respectful divisions. Colbert needs to get to that next level. He's a guy 5-6 years into his career, 15-0. A lot exciting fighter, athletic fighter, a lot going for him. In this fight, he's got a lot going for him. Has a reach advantage, height advantage, athletic advantage, a faster fighter, faster hand speed, quicker feet, better defensive fighter. And he's bigger fighter. But King Tug is tough. He's tough, man. He was outclassed by Gary Russell Jr., but he was landing some good body shots in that fight, was establishing his jab. He made it tough at times for Gary Russell Jr., although he was outclassed. But it's a tough fight for Chris Colbert. But I think he passes his test. He can't crack an egg. He's 15-0 with only 6 knockouts, so low KO percentage. But he's got enough speed, enough power to at least is respectable, right? He's got fast hands, so you don't know when they're coming, where they're coming from at times. So Um, he's got enough there. He's got enough there to climb the ladder at 130 is another test he has to get past. And this is a step up for him. So I'm interested in seeing how Colbert looks, but I think Colbert throughout this fight, he will win this thing on decision. And I think he's going to look good tomorrow. I think he's going to look good because King Tug can be tough, man. Mikey beats Regis up. I don't know. I don't think so. And look, man, you're talking about a dude from the NO. I'm from New Orleans. So I got Regis Prograis back. I'm a fan. Been following Regis Prograis for a good 7-8 years now, since the early days. This is a tough dude. Prograis is tough. He's rugged. He's got a lot going for him. Hand speed, athletic, good lateral movement. So he can do many things in there. He can give you many different looks. If plan A is not working, you can go to plan B, plan C, plan D. That's why I love this fight, because Mikey Garcia has the same thing. Mikey Garcia can show you many different things in the arsenal. Mikey Garcia, a lot of people were calling him the Tim Duncan of boxing back in the day when he was at 130, 135, because his skill was so off the charts. His skill in those lower weight classes was so off the charts, but he was having trouble making those weights, was looking for bigger fights, moved up to 147, which to me was too much. But Errol Spence can be too much for anybody. He can be too much for anybody. So there's no shame in losing to Errol Spence Jr. No shame in it. And that's what I say about these two guys, man. And another reason I love this fight is look at the losses. These are respectable, more than respectable losses. Errol Spence Jr. is a respectable loss. Josh Taylor is a respectable loss, especially being that it was a disputed loss. It's a close fight that could have went either way. I had Prograis winning the fight, but I'm a little biased. Like I said, I'm a little biased being from New Orleans, but I don't think Mikey's just going to go in there and beat Regis up. It's going to be a tough fight for both guys, man. This is a 50-50 fight. Another reason I love it. We need more 50-50 fights. Look at all the fights that are going on right now. Most of them are, the betting odds have, this guy's plus 300. This guy's plus, I think Chris Colbert's like plus 600 coming into this fight. You got a lot of wide odds. Even though as boxing fans, we see intrigue in these fights. A lot of these fights have long odds. And this one is not going to have that. This is, if you look at the odds coming into this fight, I bet you they're going to be close to 50-50. Another reason I love this fight, man. And I give the edge. I give the slight edge to Prograis, man. You got to remember the long layoff. Mikey Garcia hasn't fought since February of last year. Long layoff. And that's why I salute Mikey Garcia, because a lot of guys coming off a long layoff are going to say, I want to take a tune-up. I want to take 2 tune-ups. No, Mikey's saying, look, man, let's do it at 140. Prograis, let's do it. Let's do it. I love that. And Prograis's been looking for a big fight, been looking for a big name. Guys have not been eager to fight Prograis at all. But guess what? We got it now. We got another meaningful fight at 140. And guess what happens? The winner of this fight inches close to a Josh Taylor fight. Prograis can get a rematch if he wins the fight. Mikey Garcia gets his name thrown back in the mix because people forget about Mikey Garcia. He had a long layoff with promoter issues, the Errol Spence Jr. fight, but he won a fight after that. Was it Josito Lopez he beat after that? No, Jesse Vargas. My bad. He beat Jesse Vargas after that. So he has a win after that, but it's been since February. So people sort of forget about Mikey Garcia, that he's out there. But this is a guy, if he campaigns at 140, if he can make the weight comfortably, he's a top 5 guy at 140 right now. And 140 is tough. 140 is tough. And once again, the winner of this fight can say, hey, Tank Davis wants to campaign at 140. Throw Tank Davis in the mix. Tank Davis versus Mikey Garcia would be a great fight. Tank Davis versus Regis Prograis. I would actually favor both of those guys over Tank Davis. I just haven't seen enough from Tank Davis yet, especially at 140 when he struggled so much in the first half of the fight against Matteo Barrios. I just love the fight, man. Love that fight. Let's get Floyd was even giving a speech to Kobe one time. Can you imagine that? Like Kobe's kind of, Kobe's paying attention. Floyd's way down there. Hopefully they were sitting down. But Kobe's paying attention, like, and on the inside, he's like rolling his eyes. Like, yeah, dude. Wearing 10 chains at his fighter's event. Guy has an attention, you know what? Yeah, he's wearing 10 chains and he's right on the ring apron, looking like Mr. T. I think Tug has looked better with Goosen than with Salah so far. He has. Tug is tough, man. King Tug is a tough fight. Don't sleep on that fight tomorrow night. But I hope Chris Colbert, because Chris Colbert's the type of guy, a lot more people know him this week than knew him last week. So people are starting to realize that he has the gift of gab. He's almost like a Paulie Malignaggi type guy. He's got the New York accent. He can get in front of a camera and entertain. That guy is entertaining. He gives entertaining interviews. He's going to say whatever he wants to say. He doesn't care if you're standing right there. He was in the interview, he's standing there and he's saying Danny Garcia lost this fight, lost that fight. Danny Garcia's right there laughing. He just has that entertainment value to him. Even though he's not a knockout puncher, if he can become an entertaining fighter to match the entertaining personality that he has, you know, the dyed hair, he's drinking Coke after the weigh-in and smiling, rehydrating with Coke. This guy's funny, man. He's funny. He can become a star. So I hope Colbert wins the fight. I hope he passes that test, but it could get rough against King Tug. It could get rough. I think we're going to have a fun fight tomorrow night. Saludos, A-Rod in the building. Their Game Boxing. Salute to you. Salute to you. And while we're saying salute to all the troops out there. Happy 4th of July to everybody. Only in America, I feel like Don King. A salute to everybody out there, man. Who's serving on this 4th of July weekend. Shout out to the Marines, especially the few, the proud. So salute to everybody out there serving overseas on this 4th of July weekend. Independence Day. Subscribe, Calix Boxing 2.0. Salute to you, Tony Boswell. I saw you in the chat last night as well, man. Salute to you. I appreciate that. I appreciate y'all coming through. Y'all have no idea how much I appreciate this. Mikey has been out too long for me to pick him on this one. That's what I'm saying, man. Prograis is a tough fight after a 16, 17-month layoff. Tough, man. Tough. Prograis tough. He's one of the most undervalued fighters in boxing. This is a guy who was that close to being undisputed at 140. If he gets the nod on the official scorecards against Josh Taylor, he's in that fight with Jose Ramirez. And then I would pick him over Jose Ramirez. And I got a lot of respect for Jose Ramirez. But I think it's Taylor 1, Prograis 2, Ramirez 3. And if Mikey Garcia is campaigning at 140 officially, you could have Mikey Garcia at number 4 at 140. So you got a legit top 5 fight in this weight class. I would put Mikey Garcia over Tank Davis, by the way. Yes, I would. And I would pick Mikey Garcia to beat Tank Davis. Beating his head was swollen up. That's what I'm saying. Yep, you're exactly right. Exactly right. Shout out to JC in the building. Y'all hit the like button as y'all come in. Run PMC. I just don't like how Mikey finished the Spence fight. I feel like he conceded and went on survival mode opposed to try to stop Spence. I always just felt that Mikey Garcia could possibly be one of those guys. I remember Arturo Gatti late in his career. I think when he retired, actually. It might have been after the Alfonso Gomez fight. He said, I got to retire because I'm a guy without a weight class. He didn't have enough power. He was too small for 147, and he couldn't make 140. He just couldn't drain himself to 140 anymore. And that Mikey Garcia could be in that range right now. He's not a natural 147 pounder, a guy who can beat the top dogs at 147. Like, would you pick Mikey Garcia against, say, Terrence Crawford? No. Would you pick him against Boots Ennis? Probably not. Would you pick him against Virgil Ortiz? Probably not. Sean Porter, toss-up fight, right? But I just don't know if he's a natural 147-pounder, and we're going to see if he can comfortably make 140 because there are rumblings that both of these guys are busting at the seams at 140, that it's going to be tough for them to get down to 140 because Prograis has been talking for 1 or 2 fights now that he's ready to move up to 147. He's having trouble making the weight. So we're going to see how they look at 140. What I hope happens is both these guys can comfortably make the weight and campaign at 140 because they're both tough at 140. But if Prograis moves up to 147, he's going to be in the mix there as well. Whoever wins this fight, though, is gonna be in line for bigger fights with Josh Taylor, Tank Davis if they stay at 140. They're gonna be in line for some big fights. No such thing as a respectable loss, not acceptable. I disagree. I disagree. And this is the issue that I have, man, is I respect guys who fight tough competition night in and night out. Not night in and night out, but fight in and fight out. So I respect the guy who maybe goes 8-2, but in that 8-2 run has 7 or 8 tough fights. Like a Carl Froch. Carl Froch fought 12 to 14 straight tough fights against elite opposition. Went 12-2 or 10-2, whatever it was. Had 2 losses, avenged one of them, and his other loss was to arguably the greatest super middleweight of all time in Andre Ward. That's why I respect guys like that. I salute guys like that. I have no interest in guys who are going to take low risk, high reward fights. As much as I love Tank Davis, entertainment value, 24 knockouts and 25 fights, he looks like he's the real deal. You got to fight somebody. I don't respect the 25-0 over a guy who is maybe 28-2 and has fought 7 or 8 top 10 guys. Give me the other guy. All right. So I disagree. I think they're respectable losses, and you learn from the losses and become better, become a better fighter. That's life too. You learn from losses, you become a better person. It's the same thing in boxing, it's a microcosm. You have to test yourself. Oscar De La Hoya, 6 losses. Oscar De La Hoya is an all-time great. He fought all of his top peers in every division he was in. Would you have respected Oscar De La Hoya more if he didn't fight Shane Mosley at all? I respect Oscar De La Hoya more that he fought Shane Mosley twice. He has 2 losses with him, debatable losses, but he fought the fights. I'll take that over a guy risk, high reward any day of the week. Any day of the week. Give me that. I want guys who challenge themselves. Arturo Gatti could have not fought Oscar De La Hoya. He could have not fought Floyd Mayweather, but he wanted to test himself. Everybody knew he was going to lose those fights. He could have fought anybody for $2 to $3 million a fight, but he went in there and tested himself. Caught 2 L's, got better after the fact. We all moved on, and we all respect Arturo Gatti. They're respectable losses, man. They just are. They just are. I respect the people who test themselves. Regis Prograis and Mikey Garcia are likely going to fight. Guess what? I'd rather Mikey Garcia fight and lose to Regis Prograis than fight and lose to a guy who's maybe number 18 in the rankings. I'd rather see him fight and lose to Regis Prograis than win against against a guy who's maybe 18 or 19 or maybe a guy who's number 8 in the division. Give me that all day, man. I want guys who test themselves. I'm a boxing fan. I just want the best fights. And the only way we're going to get that is if guys go in there and test themselves. So if we take the position that there are no respectable losses, that I respect the no matter what, as boxing fans, how are we going to get good fights? Because everybody's going to be afraid to fight each other. If that's the boxing world you want, have at it. He's a punk. We knew this. Let's see what we got. Calix in chat. I buy houses in the building. I was there. Mikey ran. Robert told him 3 times to show me something. That's right. That's right. But Errol Spence is tough, man. He's tough. He's going to get washed. No Paul says Mikey Garcia is going to get washed. I don't know if he's going to get washed, man. I don't think he's trash. People forget about Mikey because of promotional problems, the weight issues, hasn't been active in his career, but that guy is talented, man. And if he can comfortably make 140, he can reinvent his career there. But I don't know. He could be that guy without the weight class between 140 and 147. I don't know. You could be right. He could be weight drained at 140. You could be right. I don't know. I'm picking Prograis. You already know where I stand. New Orleans in the building. South Louisiana. Even though he went to Houston for sparring. But he's our guy down here. I'm taking Prograis. Chill with the Mikey slander. He's still elite. That's a fair comment that Mikey's elite. Mikey is a guy who, that's what I'm saying, man. When he was in the lower weight classes, he was schooling guys. They were calling him Tim Duncan of boxing. He wasn't a fun guy, but he was a guy who did everything right, and he would technically break guys down round by round. That's what Mikey did. So he could still be elite, man. That's right. And he's only, what is he, 32? I wrote it down. He's 33. He's still got time, man. He's still got some time to reinvent himself at 140. Mikey just fights for money. He has no heart. It's fair. That's fair. We'll see. We'll see against Prograis. We not forget what he did. Mikey versus Salido fight. Top 5. Don't know. You don't think Mikey's top 5 at 140 if he campaigns at 140? He could be. Mikey was better before the layoff for Court. That's right. That's right. That definitely simmered down his career. It was like when Andre Ward was in litigation with his promoter. It simmered down his career. Andre Ward was on a hot streak. And then for 2 or 3 years, he was in promotional problems and fighting tune-ups, and it got rough. But then he reinvented himself after that. We'll see if Mikey Garcia can do that as well. That's a fair comment, too. A lot of Mikey Garcia hate out there. We'll see. Let's see what we got. There's a lot of Mikey Garcia hate out there. Mikey beats everyone at 140. In my opinion, he definitely won't get stopped at 140. He's a harder puncher. That's another fair comment. If he can comfortably make 140, that's what I'm saying. He lost to arguably the best guy at 147. He's not a natural 147 pounder. So we'll see if he can get to 140. We'll see if he can make that weight. Or is he a guy without a weight class in between 140 and 147 who's going to have to fight at catch weights of 143, 144? We'll see, because if he can reinvent himself at 140, man, he can become an elite fighter again. I don't know if he's the best. I don't think he can beat Josh Taylor at this moment, and I'll pick Prograis over him. I'd pick him over Tank Davis right now, just because I still look at. I don't think Tank Davis is a natural 140 pounder. I think he's a natural 135 pounder, and I'd like to see him campaign there. Although he has punching power, but he did struggle with the size of Barrios in the first half of that fight. Mikey that beat Vargas does not beat Regis. I think Regis is winning the fight. I think he's going to win the fight. Top rank cards on the 24th is Fire All. Yes. That's a Don King card right there. That's a Don King card. All heavyweights. It makes sense. All heavyweights. All good fights. Love that. Shout out to HLD in the building. If Mikey is the goods, he'll prove us wrong. Till then, I'm trashing him. The Mikey Garcia hate is real in the building. I wasn't expecting that, man. I thought I was going to get some Mikey Garcia love. Mikey can't make 140, in my opinion. That's the there are 2 things that I'm worried about going into that thing. 1, can he make 140? Or is he a guy without a weight class? Because he's not a natural 147 pounder. 2, the layoff. What's going to happen with the layoff? Hasn't fought since February 2020, and he's hopping right back in there with a beast in Regis Prograis. That's the 2 things I worry about. Because he's skilled. And that can translate at 140. Spense is overrated. We're going to find out. We're going to get a better idea of that in August. Because Pacquiao, even at 42 and a half years old, man, all the feints, the flurries that he throws, the offensive output, even at 42, he's a legend. He's going to bring it. So we're going to get a better idea. We'll get a better idea. But Errol Spence, man, I think he's the goods. And I think that translates to 154, eventually 160. And you got to worry about the car crash, too. Hasn't looked the same after the car crash, in my opinion. So we'll see. And I don't think Danny Garcia is a great welterweight. I thought he was a really good 140 pounder, but I always thought he was overvalued at 147. So I didn't think that was a great win, in my opinion. So Pacquiao fight's going to be tough, and we're going to see. I'm going to give him full credit, by the way, if he beats Pacquiao. We'll give him full credit. In other words, Mikey got fat. Mikey did get out of shape. Porter is too much for Mikey at 147. I agree. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think he's a natural welterweight. I would pick 5, 6, maybe even 7 guys to beat him at one. I would pick Virgil Ortiz to beat him right now. I'd pick Boots Ennis to beat him right now. Terrence Crawford to beat him right now. Errol Spence already beat him. Sean Porter, I would pick to beat him. Danny Garcia, that would be a good fight as well. Toss up fight there. But I don't think he's a natural welterweight. Hopefully he can make 140. Fine. The Garcias are not dedicated gym rats to the craft unless they have a fight lined up and they go fat farm training. Is that what they call it? Fat farm training? Tony, when he bulked up and wasn't even muscle, this fool looked like 5 foot, 250 pounds. I don't know where you're going with that. Porter, Mikey, they came forward, walk you down inside, smothers Mikey, in my opinion. I think Regis is going to walk Mikey down as well. You're talking about Porter there, but I think Regis can do it too. I think he can walk him down. Regis can walk guys down and go to the body. Nice body puncher. And he's a guy who's persistent. He has persistence. He has patience and he has persistence. Two things that you need to be a great fighter, but he's persistent. He's not going to back off just because you have the jab in his face. He's going to find a way on the inside of that jab and get to you. I think that's what he's going to do in this fight. I favor Prograis. I favor Prograis. Do you respect Oscar De La Hoya's career more than Floyd Mayweather? Yeah, I do. I was just talking about that. You look at Oscar's resume. Even though Floyd beat him, Oscar was well past his prime. But Oscar beat. I mean, look at the names on the resume. Even late in his career when he fought Floyd and Manny, he made Floyd and Manny. Those fights with De La Hoya catapulted Floyd and Manny to another stratosphere in their careers. That's when Floyd graduated from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather. Shoom, gone. He did that for guys. And I'm not saying guys didn't get shine off of Floyd as well, because they sure did. Floyd has reinvented the game. What Floyd has done, Floyd is one of the greatest prize fighters that ever lived. He's right up there. Right up there with the Jack Dempseys, etc. But as far as a career, a resume, going in there with top competition, constantly testing yourselves, all the guys he's been in there with, even with L's, and he has better wins than Floyd does. Yes, I do, man. I do. I respect his career more than I respect Floyd's. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on that, but I'm going to stay consistent. I respect the guys who test themselves. And not saying Floyd didn't do that at times, but there were a lot of times when Floyd let us down with that. And this is coming from a guy who respects the hell out of Floyd's ability and talent and greatness. Keep it real, Oscar was a beast. The fishnets broke. The fishnets. Oscar with the fishnets. Did not have this. Let's see. Sleeping, but he wins by UD. Yeah, Mikey stops. Ramirez, in my opinion. Taylor couldn't do it. Calix Boxing moving up on a beer sponsor now, making. Yeah, I need to get a Blue Moon sponsor. I need to get a Blue Moon sponsor. I put a little orange in there at times. I need to get a commercial. What fights do you want to see made for the second half of the year? This is one of them. Mikey Garcia and Regis Prograis. Love that fight. Canelo versus Caleb Plant. Want to see that one. Because I want all the marbles on the table at 168. Give us a undisputed champion at 168. Nonito versus Inoue. Even though I think Inoue wins more decisively in the second fight. Inoue's special. That's a once-in-a-generation type dude right there. Looking forward to following his career for years to come. But I want to see Inoue versus Donaire rematch. Love that fight. One of them we're getting is Charlo versus Castano at 140. We're already getting that one. Man, there are a lot of them. Shakur Stevenson versus Jamal Herring, something like that. I'll take that fight. Another one I'm getting, Estrada versus Chocolatito too. Getting that. And hopefully we can get this Teofimo versus Kambosos fight through. Teofimo looks good against him, hopefully, because Kambosos is a tough fighter, man. He's a fighter that will go out on his shield. Hopefully we can get that through in September, and then in December, before the end of the year, we can get the rematch. Because I want to see the rematch. I want to see more. I have questions. What if Lomachenko starts earlier in the fight? I think I know what the answer would be. I think Teofimo would stop him if that's the case. But what happens if he starts off early? Will he be able to start off early? Did he not start off early in that fight because of what Teofimo was doing? So is he not capable of doing it? So are we going to see more of the same in the second fight? A slow starting Lomachenko? I have a lot of questions. So I'm for the rematch. I want to see the rematch. But if we don't get the rematch, I'd be fine with Teofimo versus a Devin Haney, something like that. I'd love to see Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. They're talking about that fight. There's a lot of fights to be made, man. There's a lot of fights to be made. And the fight I want to see, I don't think it's going to be before the end of the year, but Joshua versus Fury. Would love to see that one too. There's a lot of fights that can be made, man. Just off the top of my head, those are some of them. But I can come out with a long list. Mikey is elite Bud Light drinker. Man, yeah, the Mikey Garcia hate, man, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Y'all really hate Mikey. Goodness. Mikey the cop. Remember when Mikey had that handlebar mustache going on? He really looked like a cop. He had the sunglasses with the handlebar mustache. Let's see. Mikey can comfortably eat 12 tacos. What was this? Mikey stops Taylor for sure. Better skills and harder puncher. I don't think so, man. I don't think so at all. Taylor's tough. I think Taylor dog walks him, to be honest. What are y'all doing, man? Mikey can comfortably eat about 12 tacos. What are y'all doing? What's with the Mikey hate? This was supposed to be a Mikey love show tonight. Pause. This was supposed to be, Regis Prograis versus Mikey Garcia. Let's get excited about this. You know, two elite fighters getting in the ring. But instead, what we're getting is Mikey eats 12 tacos. Fat Farm training. Whatever that is. I don't even know what Fat Farm training is. What's with the Mikey Garcia hate? All right? Give him some love, man. The guy's coming off of an 18-month layoff, whatever it is, 16-month layoff, and he's going to fight Regis Prograis. Give him some love. All right? And I think Regis Prograis is going to beat him, but give the guy some love, man. Spense is the best fighter Manny has faced his whole career. No, I don't think so. I think that goes to Floyd. Floyd's the best fighter Manny's ever faced in his career, for sure. Juan Marquez is a better fighter as of right now than Errol Spence. Errol Spence he's up there, man. He's up there. I think the guy's elite. He has an opportunity to be special if he can if he can stay focused. Don't get drunk and drive Ferraris into brick walls. Stay focused. Don't hang around Adrian Broner on Friday and Saturday nights. Stay focused, man. If he does, moves up to 154, does something there, moves up to 160, maybe gets a catchweight fight with Canelo. This guy has the potential to be special. He really does. He really does. So we'll see. We still got 5, 6, 7 years left of his career to judge that. But as of right now, I don't think he's going to be the toughest fight for Manny. I don't. I think he's more flat-footed than Floyd. So I don't think he presents the problems that Floyd presented to Manny in their fight. Let's see what we got. If Floyd and Manny fought in their prime, Pretty Boy versus Pac-Man, who wins? It's always tough. That's always tough. I've gotten that one a million times, and I still go back and forth. And I always say there's a reason the drug testing thing came up in 2009. There's a reason that Floyd acted like he was on this crusade for clean boxing and drug testing, all while he had fighters in his own camp, fighters who were training at his gym getting popped for positive drug tests. He wasn't really serious about that, in my opinion. And he was trying to delay. Like I said all the time, man, Floyd, y'all can make fun of him for not reading. The guy is smart. The guy, he knows what he's doing. He's from the Sun Tzu Art of War school of boxing. Put yourself beyond defeat before you step in the ring. He waited that out, waited so Manny deteriorated a little bit, But I'll say this, as the years go on, that win does look better for him, being that um, Manny just beat Keith Thurman. And Manny's fighting Errol Spence Jr. right now, still going. What are we, 7 years later? 8 years later? I think 7 years later, 6, 7 years later. So 5 years later, whatever we are. So that win has aged better, but that doesn't cancel out the fact that he waited Manny out a while. He made those excuses, promotional issues, all that stuff. Had they have fought in 2009, it would have been a different ball game. And it's close, man. It's a toss-up fight. I don't know where to go with that. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. It's tough. I respect the hell out of both those guys. But man, Floyd puts himself beyond defeat. He did it with Canelo. He realized that this guy's going to be a problem. If I wait this out a little longer, they're going to be calling for this fight. He's going to be a problem. So let's get him now before he enters his prime. And he got Canelo when Canelo was a puppy. And that was a great win. It was a great performance by Floyd. In my opinion, that was Floyd's greatest performance, even more so probably than Diego Corrales' fight. Although that was a great one. So Floyd had some great performances. I guess my guy Arturo Gatti too. Let's see what else we got. Wamama not even close. I wanted Mikey versus Danny years ago. That'd be a good fight. Right now it'd be a good fight. Marquez, although Danny's talking about going to 54. Marquez is a bum basher. Go look at his resume. Nah, man. No. You can't call a guy who fought Pacquiao 4 times a bum basher. Come on, man. Let's see what we got. No Paul in the building. A-Rod, I respect Fernando Vargas' career more than Floyd. Floyd could have fought Whitaker to say he's the best. The thing about Vargas that I love is that guy, young, was fighting guys. I mean, he's a guy, when you look at it, for that era especially, didn't have that many fights, but he packed some fights in that little bitty career, right? He packed some fights in there. Yeah, I respect the hell out of Vargas, man. That's one of my favorite fighters to go back and watch. Just his swagger, right? And just the fact that he was willing to get in there with anybody. Love Vargas. Love Vargas. Then Floyd duck, Winky right. I don't know if you consider that a duck. Like I said, it's hard to say guys are ducking guys who aren't necessarily in their weight class. And I never saw Floyd and Winky as same weights. So I wouldn't call that a duck. But there were other guys. Paul Williams was in his weight class. Antonio Margarito was in his weight class. And I think he wins all those fights. Antonio Margarito, I think he would have sent to hell. Paul Williams is a tougher fight. And that's the reason Paul Williams went up to 160 from 147. Paul Williams was a problem at 147. Just go back and look at Paul Williams versus Antonio Margarito. Go look at the Quintana second fight. Paul Williams was a problem. And he had to move up to 160 because people wouldn't fight him there because he was such a problem. And Floyd was one of the guys who didn't want to fight him at 147. Tio is going to stop Luma. Tio is going to make him look bad. Possibly. Quite possibly. I want Teofimo versus Tank. Let's see. Spence versus Crawford is a fight I want to see this year. Not going to happen. But, yeah, I would put that on. Spence versus Crawford is the fight that I want to see in boxing. That's the best fight that can be made in boxing right now. From what I'm hearing, Crawford's top rank promotion contract runs out in October. So this will be his last fight on Top Rank. So hopefully he gets off of Top Rank Island and starts to get these fights at 147. I know Bob Arum's trying to lure him to stay with Top Rank by saying that Josh Taylor is going to move up to 147. We're going to have a super fight between Terrence Crawford and Josh Taylor. I don't know. I don't know about that. I just think that if he becomes a free agent, does a fight-by-fight thing like Regis Prograis does, like other fighters have learned that they can do, go fight-by-fight basis. Canelo does the same thing. I think he goes 2 or 3 fights at a time. You go on a fight-by-fight basis, become a free agent after every fight, then Terrence Crawford will get these fights that start to come to him, as long as he's reasonable in negotiations. So, hopefully Crawford versus Errol Spence is a realistic matchup that can be made in 2022 if Errol Spence gets past Manny Pacquiao. Let's see what we got. So you're admitting that Spence only wins because Pac is old? Come on, GOAT. uh, look, man, I'm going to give Spence his full credit if Pacquiao wins. I'll just leave it at that. And I hope that Pacquiao wins. Y'all know I'm a Pacquiao fan, so I hope he wins the fight. If Manny wins, what does it say? The new generation, or is it Manny just that good? I think a mixture of both. And I often wonder, and I've talked to D-Sal about this. We talked about this. Is this new generation as good as the older generation? Somebody asked George Foreman that on Twitter, and George Foreman said this generation is just as good as past generations, previous generations, just as talented, he said. And George is always a guy who is positive. He likes to get positive answers. So I think that's part of it. But I say it's not about talent. It's about this is definitely a softer generation. Really in everything, right? Not just boxing. You look at NBA, softer generation. NFL, softer generation. You can't touch the quarterback, or it's a 15-yard penalty. Softer generation in every sport. And this is certainly a softer generation in boxing. Guys are getting paid millions of dollars to fight scrubs, and they're fighting once or twice a year. They feel entitled. The list goes on and on and on. So it could be that these guys are just softer. And Manny is cut from that cloth. He's an old school fighter. So he's used to being in there with tough fighters. So fighting Errol Spence is nothing new. He's used to being under the bright lights against tough opposition. Whereas maybe Errol Spence, not as much. Although Errol Spence has been in big fights before. I just think we're going to have a good fight here between two great fighters, because Errol Spence is in his prime. He's a great fighter. And Manny, I think he's still got something left in the tank. Well past his prime, but he's still got something left in his tank. Facts, JC. I hear that fax machine going off. Spence is a great machine behind him. He's fighting only guys he can beat. It's obvious he's ducking Crawford. Possibly he's fighting. Not possibly. He is ducking Crawford. He is. He's using the promotional thing to his advantage, saying 60-40, then 70-30. I think he even got to 80-20. You're right about that. You're right. I can't debate that. You're right about that. As ese pinche co, I don't know what that means. Learning Spanish, but I'm not there yet. So this has been the half-year award show. Appreciate y'all all coming through, man. And if you're catching this in the archive, leave a comment below and hit the sub button if you're not subbed yet. Been a fun show, half-year award show. And stop the Mikey Garcia hate. We got that hashtag out there. Stop Asian hate. Stop the Mikey Garcia hate. Let's start that. I'm going to start that hashtag on Twitter so all y'all can see it. Stop Mikey Garcia hate. All right? Enough with the Fat Farm training stuff. Enough with the eating 12 tacos. Mikey Garcia is back against Regis Prograis. But Regis Prograis is going to beat him because New Orleans is in the building. And U.S. is in the building this weekend. U.S. in the building. Happy 4th of July to everybody out there, man. And on a serious note, salute to everybody out there serving. Salute to the Marines out there, the few, the proud, the strong, the Marines. Everybody out there, man, who is making this country great. Appreciate y'all. I feel like Don King right now waving that flag. Only in America. Only in America. I'm a Filipino, but I think Spence wins this one, man. He always has trouble with technical. And Spence is big, man. Spence is big. The big dude. Big dude. You're right about that. We'll be talking about that fight a lot the next 2 months. Got a lot of Manny Pacquiao videos coming. Believe that. And yeah, man. Stop the Mikey Garcia. Stop Mikey Garcia hate. We'll be talking about that on Twitter as well. So appreciate y'all tuning in. Hell, have a great weekend. I'll be dropping a lot of videos this weekend. So look out on the channel. And that Chris Colbert versus King Tug prediction video is on the playlist on the channel as well. All the predictions are on a prediction playlist. All of the podcasts are on the Power Punchers playlist. So it's easy for y'all to find on the channel. I'm out, man. God bless y'all. Peace.